I call to order the Lake Havasu City Council regular meeting on Tuesday, November 27th, 2018 at 6 p.m. We'll now have an invocation by Pastor Dean Wiles. Please stand.
Heavenly Father, what an awesome God you are. And we just come with grateful hearts tonight. We're so thankful for this awesome country that we live in. And Lord, we just pray tonight for military personnel all over the world. God, that you'd keep your hand upon them and protect them. Should they be in a dangerous situation, I pray that you give them a way of escape. Lord, bless their families that they're separated from, and may they be reunited soon. Lord, we thank you for this great city that we live in. We're thankful for the leadership. God, I'm thankful for the police department, the fire department, the first responders. I pray that you keep your hand upon them even tonight as they're doing their jobs. God, give them wisdom in every situation that they face. And Lord, I'm thankful for the leadership of our city. God, I just want to say thank you for Mayor Nixon and the 12 years of faithful service that he's given to this city. Lord, I pray that you would continue to give him many, many more years of good health and bless his marriage, God, and his family and the upcoming chapter of his life. Lord, we pray also for the newly elect mayor, Cal Sheehy. God, that you would protect him and that you would bless him, that your peace and that your wisdom would be upon him as he goes into this new role. God, I pray that you help him with the decisions that he makes. God, that you would use him to take this city to the next level that you want it to go. Lord, I'm thankful for each city council member. It's not by accident that they're in that position, but by your divine appointment. And so I ask that you continue to give them wisdom, give them favor with the people of this community, and God, give them great ideas that will continue to make this city a safe city, and that it would be a city that would be an example to other cities in this state. Lord, again, we pray that your presence would fill this room, bless this meeting. Lord, we honor you and we bless you. God, continue to bless Lake Havasu City and continue to bless the United States of America. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And thank you, Pastor. Would the city clerk please call the roll?
Council members Mark Nixon,
Here.
Jenny Koch, here. Gordon Grote,
Here.
David Lane,
Here.
Michelle Lynn, here. Donna McCoy, here. Cal Sheehy.
Here.
All right, item 5 and 6 we're going to kind of combine, but before we do, I do want to say just a couple words before we do presentation of the outgoing members. First of all, I found it interesting that when I came up to the dais just a few minutes ago, I knew I was on my way out because the chair had already been lowered to here. And I had to put it back up. Said, whoa, wait a minute. I think I get another 10 minutes here. So, but I just want to start by thanking our council. I've worked with several councils over the 12 years, and I just appreciate all the support you've given me over these years. To our city staff, the best city staff you can ask for. They are very customer oriented. They work hard every day. A lot of you probably don't know, but you know, we have 100 fewer people than we did just 10 years ago, and they picked up the slack and continue to do a wonderful job. To Mitch Kalali, where'd you go, Mitch? There he is. Thank you, everything you do for our Veterans Treatment Court. I'm very proud of it, and I'm proud of what you've done. Thank you so much. Kelly Gary, one of my absolute trusted advisors. You couldn't ask for a better city attorney whenever I need to just talk over an issue and get some advice. She was always there for me, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And Jess, thank you for you stepped in, followed Charlie Cassins. I know Charlie's here. Charlie did a wonderful job all his years, and then you stepped in quickly, learned everything you needed to do, and have done a great job. It's been an honor and a privilege to work with you. It really has been. And to the citizens of Lake Havasu City, I just can't thank you enough for the trust and faith that you have placed in me over the last 12 years. You made my job a heck of a lot easier because you would always communicate with me, let me know what we were doing right and maybe not so right, and you did it always in such a respectful manner. I can't tell you how much that is, how much that was appreciated. And finally, just to say it's been an absolute honor and privilege to serve you. Thank you. So now, don't make me cry, please. Okay, so now we're going to do presentations to outgoing council members, and then shortly thereafter, we'll administer the oath of office to our newly elected council members, and then we'll break for a few refreshments. I figured the reason, though, that we're all here tonight, I know that it's really important that we have a comment on the new carbon monoxide monitoring system. So I figured that's why you were all here. But since you're all here, we happen to have a little bit of cake as well. So, Mr. Mayor, it's all yours.
Mayor Nixon, can you join me in front of the room? We have a few presentations for you.
I better take my briefcase.
We don't have to pull this mic, so let's stand over here. Would you join? Sure.
Probably not allowed past this time.
Mayor Mark Nixon, it's with my honor that we get to bestow upon you the actual gavel that you've used over the last 12 years to provide leadership to Lake Havasu City. So thank you for everything that you've done. Because of everything that you've done, the future leaders of Lake Havasu City will be standing on the shoulder of a giant. So, thank you. Don't go anywhere.
If you'd like, I can hold up for you, because your hands are going to be frozen. All right, Mr. Mayor, the first official duty, I know you've given thousands of these out, but we have a proclamation today marking November 27th, Mark Stephen Nexon Day. Whereas today we recognize and celebrate the retirement of Mark Stephen Nexon and his 12 years of dedicated service as mayor to Lake Havasu City. And whereas Mark graduated with honors from San Diego State University in 1976 with a BS in accounting and joined Ernst & Young the same year. Mark worked at Ernst & Young from 1976 until he retired as partner in 1997. And whereas Mark married his wife Eileen in January of 1978, together they have a son, Jonathan Nexon, a 2-year-old grandson, Wilson Carter Nexon, and another grandson on the way, Benson Parker Nexon. And whereas Mark spent 13 years living in Silicon Valley, California, and 8 years living in Sacramento, California, meanwhile traveling extensively through the Far and Middle East before he and Eileen decided to move to Lake Havasu City in 1997. And whereas it wasn't long before Mark and Eileen set up roots in Lake Havasu City as Mark opened NSC Certified Public Accounting 1 year later in 1998 until he retired in 2014. And whereas Mark was elected mayor of Lake Havasu City in 2006 and re-elected in 2010 and 2014. And whereas as mayor, Mark served the community tirelessly and contributed to the betterment of our great city through his volunteer contributions and the success he achieved. To name a few of his accomplishments, he championed the construction of the Tennell Memorial Sports Park, formed the Havasu Youth Advisory Council, maintained financial stability during the Great Recession, and after envisioned and created the Veterans Treatment Corps, led the efforts of the Vision 2020 Revitalization Plan and the America's Best Communities competition, served as vice chair of the League of Arizona Cities and Towns Executive Committee, served as chairman of the Clean Colorado River Sustainability Coalition and Tri-City Council, named honorary lifetime member of Vietnam Veterans of America, named honorary member of the Marine Corps League, and most recently awarded the Copper Star Bucky O'Neill Award from the Unified Veterans Arizona Veterans. And whereas on behalf of Lake Havasu City, I want to express our sincere appreciation to Mark S. Nexon for his unwavering dedication and service to this community. Now therefore, I, Cal Sheehy, Mayor of Lake Havasu City, Arizona, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, November 27, 2018 is Mark Stephen Nexon Day in Lake Havasu City, and urge all citizens to join me in thanking Mark for his service as mayor and wish him luck in his future endeavors. Your son will like one as well, so here's a copy. And Mr. Mayor, you've also given out hundreds of keys to our city. We wanted to give you a special key to the city as well. It's presented to Mark S. Nexon by Lake Havasu City, November 27, 2018. In honor of your years of outstanding leadership and service to our citizens, our doors will always be open for you. And we also have a member of HIAC that's going to make a presentation as well.
Hi, my name is Tatum Brakamani, and on behalf of Havasu Youth Advisory Council, we would like to thank you for all your support with all our projects, and we'd like to present you with this mug that has pictures of all of the years of Havasu Youth Advisory Council. Thank you for all your help and support.
All right, and we also, Lisa Kruger from the Chamber of Commerce has a presentation.
You said, oh my, are you worried? All right. I also would like to recognize the Chamber's Board of Directors that are here in the audience this evening. So there are a few of you here, if you wouldn't mind standing up. So we have a little gift for you. You have plenty of things to hang on your wall, and you've got a key to get back in. But this is kind of a key to social life in Wickenburg. So on behalf of the Chamber, and well, I want to preface this by saying, before he was in charge of all of you and all of us, he was the chairman of the Chamber Board of Directors. So we trained him and we brought him up right, and here he is today. So Mark, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, a little gift of appreciation.
All right, and if I could ask the City Council to join me up here, we have a gift for you from the City Council. All right, Mr. Mayor, it was very difficult to find a gift for you on behalf of the council, and we've all enjoyed our time working with you as well. And so we commissioned a local artist to put together a commemorative piece of art that is one of a kind, made just for you. It resembles the London Bridge and the passing of the torch to new leadership. And so Jackie Mang from the Q Gallery created this piece of artwork. And it has true stone from the London Bridge, and represents the bridge on the bottom, and then the stonework within. So thank you for all that you have done for Lake Havasu City. We're going to miss you.
We don't have a handout, unfortunately.
Is it in the back room?
It's broke.
Oh, it's broke. Well, we're gonna have to just figure it out.
We'll just do it that way.
Okay, move the other way.
All right. First of all, Mayor Nixon, I do want to add to the list of people who are thanking you. I want to thank you personally and professionally for all that you've done, and especially for the veterans in Lake Havasu City. And there are people, veterans in this room and veterans in Lake Havasu City, whose lives you have changed for the better, and I really appreciate that. And sir, I salute you. Okay, and now you can ride off into the sunset.
I'm gonna sit over here for right now.
I'm sorry, the public has to sit back
Thanks. Okay, and starting then with Mayor Sheehy, if you would please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Cal Sheehy,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of Arizona,
of the state of Arizona,
that I bear true faith and allegiance
that I bear true faith and allegiance
to the same,
and
will defend them
will defend them
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic, and I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of my office
discharge the duties of my office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Councilmember Dolan, if you want to step forward, please. Wasn't too hard, was it? No. Okay, good. All right, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jim Dolan,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of Arizona,
of the state of Arizona,
that I bear true faith and allegiance
that I bear true faith and allegiance
to the same, and will defend them
and will defend them
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
and
and I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of my office according to the best of my ability. So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we have to do two more. Yeah.
Judge. Jenny, I think you still have to do Jenny and Michelle.
Are still staying. And Councilmember Koch, if I could have you step forward, please. And please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jenny Koch,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
that I bear true faith and allegiance
that I bear true faith and allegiance
to the same,
and
will defend them
will defend them
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and I will faithfully and impartially
and I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of my office
discharge the duties of my office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I guess I better make sure we're good. Oh, wait, there we go. And Miss Lynn, if I could have you please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Michelle Lynn,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United
the
States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the State of Arizona,
of the State of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
and will defend them
and will defend them
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and I will faithfully and impartially
and I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of my office
discharge the duties of my office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Okay, now I'm good.
Thank you, Judge. Good evening. We'll now resume our regular meeting. The next item on our agenda is the call to the public. At the call to the public, it's an opportunity for citizens wishing to address the City Council on matters of concern to them. Your comments must be limited to 5 minutes or less. There is a light indicator on the podium. Green means go, yellow means your time is starting to end, and then red is the time is up. If you have an item that is on the agenda, we ask that you wait till that time so we can have a two-way conversation. But with that, we'll now open the call to the public. I do have one person that signed up. You don't have to sign up, but we'll start with Lisa Kruger.
Congratulations, Mayor Sheehy and council members. It's great to be here with you tonight. This evening, I have the great honor of introducing this year's Leadership Lake Havasu class. Next month at their session, they have their mock city council meeting. So one of the things that we really think is a good idea for them is to actually attend a council meeting, because sometimes people just don't do that. So if the members of this year's leadership class that are in the audience could please stand. And I'm going to just briefly, they're not all here, but you can see several of them are here. So I just wanted to tell you who they are and where they're from. So we have Chelsea Bailey from Mile Markers, Brett Bitterman from Lake Havasu Unified School District, Michelle Christ from Mojave State Bank, Sarah Davis from College Street Brewhouse, Mary De Los Santos from WNEA, Joelle Dickinson from London Bridge Resort, I'm not sure if I'm gonna say this right, Misael Jimenez from Barley Brothers, Carol Langford from Unisource, Colleen Light, who is a retired nurse, Chris Marshock from Lake Havasu Golf Club, Thomas Martin from College Street, Rochelle Candle from Lake Havasu City, Alicia Napier from Mudshark, Nikki Nickel from the Chamber of Commerce, Joe Overly from Sterilite Corporation, Cynthia Pierce from Keller Williams, Florence Philpott Thallis from Telesis, Travis Redman from Sunstone Realty, Sue Reed from Realty Executives, Joni Renzi from Hospice of Havasu, Stephanie Roan from Prestige Assisted Living, Tim Saul from Mile Markers, Elliot Seidel from Hospice of Havasu, Nancy Sain from Anderson Nissan, Bhaskar Singh from Mojave Community College, Sarah Stennett from Lakeview Terrace Memory Care, Amy Ulmer from Telesis, Jillian Grace Usher from River Scene Magazine, and Diane Wheeler from Havasu Regional Medical Center. So thank you so much for letting me have the opportunity to introduce them. Some of them are already leaders, but someday some of them might be sitting up there with you guys. So thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the council? With that, I will close the call to the public. At this time, I'm going to let oh, I'm sorry. Don, come on up.
Don Bergen. Good evening. First, I want to personally thank Mark Nixon for the excellent work that he did over 12 years helping this city, and also the prompt response he would give me to my occasional email. But on the second subject, the planning and zoning meetings, we do not have we have a call to the public, but we never have a speaker. We even have very few speakers on an item. many in our city do not get a newspaper. And those that do, many of them do not read the city legal notices. And those that may, if they were to read that it was going to rezone from C1 to 1B, they wouldn't know what that meant. And this is true all over the city. I would say maybe 1% of our population may understand an item coming before the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then they come to you. They will find out when construction begins, but then it's too late. When I vote on the Planning and Zoning Commission, I try my best to try to represent the residents of Lake Havasu and how I think they would feel on that particular item. And with now you starting a new council term, I'm urging each of you, when you discuss something, when you vote on it, please vote representing your constituents, the residents of our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council? All right, seeing none, we'll close the call to the public, but we will take a couple of minutes just for the new and returning council members to say a couple of words. So I'll start with Councilmember Koch.
Thank you, Mayor Sheehy. I just have a few thank yous that I'd be remiss if I didn't say. First of all, thank you to all the voters who allowed me to serve another 4 years. I really do enjoy being back here. I do enjoy help making the city a better place to live. And I'm able to do this because I have the support of my husband, who's here tonight, of 18 years, as well as the rest of my family. And it's bittersweet this evening because two of my mentors that are probably the greatest reason why I'm sitting back here and have given me the courage and the motivation and the self being to be up here, we're in the audience this evening, and one of which is Lisa Kruger from the Chamber, who you've heard of, and also Mayor Nexon. Mayor was the Chamber Board Chairman when I went to work for the Chamber under the leadership of Lisa Kruger, and so I got the privilege to work there for 15 years and went through the leadership program, and I'm just really proud to sit back here and to represent our community, and it's something that I really am passionate about. I enjoy working with our city staff. I'm excited to work with Cal as the mayor. I've worked with Cal for years since he came back to town in many capacities, so I'm confident in his abilities and looking forward to the next 4 years. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Lynn?
I'll make it really quick. I just want to thank the voters for allowing me another term. I really enjoy representing the citizens, and sometimes I can get a little vocal, but you come to me, send the emails, make the phone calls, and I don't mind voicing your opinions. I want to thank my family for standing by me, and I'm really excited for this new council and the leadership under Cal. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Dolan?
Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, I can check working the microphone off my list. So I'd like to thank my beautiful wife and children who are in the back of the room, who were a great support over the last year, and I appreciate your support and your flexibility with my schedule. I'd also like to thank Mayor Nexon. I was home today, 12 years, and people are begging you to stay. I hope all of us, when we leave, we have that much respect from the community. Just an honor to be up here to serve in one of these 7 seats. And picking up where he left off, you guys definitely left the bar very high for us to continue. So just want to thank you and just thank the community for your support, and I'll do my best. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would also like to thank everyone for their vote of confidence in electing me mayor. It's an honor, and I'm grateful to be able to lead Lake Havasu City today, tomorrow, and in the coming years. I will lead with an open door and use a common sense approach to make decisions that are best for the future of our great community. I'll continue to focus on the implementation of the Vision 2020 Revitalization Plan and continue to work on job creation. I believe together that we can create jobs so that every resident that is skilled and is seeking employment can find a stable, good-paying job where they can lay down roots in our community and prosper. Over the past 4 years, I've served you as a council member, and I've had the opportunity to work with and meet members of our city staff. I'm here to tell you that our city staff is committed to our community. They're innovative, they're intelligent, and they're willing to do what it takes to get the job done. I'm glad to work with them in the coming years to move Lake Havasu City forward. I congratulate Councilmember Koch, Councilmember Lynn, and Councilmember Dolan on winning your elections. And I look forward to working with all of my colleagues up here on the City Council to continue to accomplish good work for the city. I also thank outgoing Mayor Mark Nexon for his leadership and his assistance in the transition of this process. He's been very great, very cordial in making that happen. And finally, I would like to thank all of the citizens of Lake Havasu City for their trust, support, and confidence. I'll be available, open, and transparent, and willing to roll up my sleeves to serve you and the needs of our great community. And together, we'll all move Lake Havasu City forward. So thank you very much. We'll now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. If any of the council members want to remove any of the items for separate discussion.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion.
Yes.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I believe we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is correspondence, communications, petitions, announcements, and the city manager report. We'll start with item 9.1, announce vacancies on the Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. Ms. Williams?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. There are several vacancies on the Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. The following is a listing of those vacancies. Airport Advisory Board, 1 regular pilot member, 1 alternate non-pilot member. Board of Adjustment, 3 regular members, 3 alternate members, and the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, 1 student member. Anyone interested can pick up a packet at City Hall. They are also available on the city's website.
Thank you. The next item is 9.2, the city manager's report. Mr. Knudsen?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to start off with the city manager's report with a congratulations to Sean Irula. She works in human resources, and she earned a professional in human resources certification. This certification, awarded by the Human Resource Certification Institute, signifies that she possesses the theoretical knowledge and practical experience necessary to demonstrate a mastery of knowledge in the field of HR. This is a very difficult exam, and the pass rate is 52%. And she did phenomenal on the exam, and want to congratulate Mrs. Irula. Great job, Sean. The city employees from multiple departments participated in the first annual court softball challenge at Rotary Community Park just last Saturday. The day generated over $1,000 for the local Havasu Community Health Foundation Food Bank. The fire department took home the champions plaque with maybe a little drama tied to that first place award. But the award was donated by Detective Tom DePoite of the Lake Havasu City Police Department. And the court team, I'd like to announce, probably took home the last place team. Thank you to all the participants and to the Consolidated Court, especially Kim Sterling and Judge Mike Dunbar, for a great event that brought us together as employees and raised money for a great cause. The next Coffee with the Mayor and City Manager is on Friday, December 7th. It'll be at new time. It'll be at 8:30 a.m. Till 10 a.m. And will be taking place at ASU Lake Havasu. It will be in the Santiago Room 109. Please come out and join us. A reminder for the public and residents, don't miss out on this upcoming household hazardous waste event. Had some discussions this morning with Matt Cross at Republic Services. It's been a lot of years since the last event of this type was offered to the community, and we're going to be doing these once a year every December. The event is free and takes place on Saturday, December 8th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and it'll take place at the Public Works Maintenance Yard, which is located at 900 London Bridge Road. Come out, bring your items such as paints, oils, batteries, tires, TVs, computers, and much, much more. The event is for Lake Havasu City residents only, and proof of residency is required. Just bring a driver's license or a bill with your address on it, and come down and take advantage of this free event. And lastly, a few events to announce. This weekend, lots of things happening in Lake Havasu City. Both Friday and Saturday, November 30th and December 1st at 6:30 p.m. It's the annual Christmas Boat Parade of Lights. It takes place in the Bridgewater Channel. On Saturday, December 1st at 7 a.m., the annual Jingle Bell Walk will be held on the Island Walking Path. Sunday, December 2nd, 11 a.m. is the 35th annual River Riders Toy Run. That'll take place on McCulloch Boulevard. Also on December 2nd at 6 p.m., the annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony will take place at Wheeler Park. And of course, on Friday, December 14th, it's the annual community dinner, which will take place at the Aquatic Center Community Center. And we'll have seating at 4 p.m. and additional seating at 6 p.m. Mayor and Council, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Do any council members have any questions for the city manager? All right, we'll move on to the public hearings portion of our meeting. Our first item is 10.1, a Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Boathouse Grill at 801 Beachcomber Boulevard. Ms. Williams?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Patrice Suzanne Holloway has applied for a Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Boathouse Grill located at 801 Beachcomber Boulevard. All posting requirements have been met, all fees have been paid, and no objections were received. The location is properly zoned for a Series 12 liquor license.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. I will open it up to if anyone has any questions for the council. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
motion.
Yes.
I move to recommend that the Arizona Department of Liquor License and Control approve a Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Boathouse Grill at 801 Beachcomber Boulevard.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, I believe we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. The next item is 10.2, adopt resolution number 18-3269, appointing a student member to the Lake Havasu City Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Ms. Williams.
Mayor and City Council, the city received one application requesting consideration for a student member position on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. This position is necessary to fill an expired term of a student member. Ms. Lauren Vedder's application was provided to you in the packet, and she is here today to make a brief presentation to the City Council, answer any questions.
Thank you. Ms. Vedder?
Hi, my name's Lauren Vedder, and I'm a 16-year-old sophomore at Lake Havasu High School. And I was just really interested in joining the board because I was born and raised here, and I felt that someone young needed to be represented. And I just wanted to give back to the community that gave me so much growing up.
Excellent. Thank you. Do any of the members of council have any questions for Ms. Vedder? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Councilmember Lynn?
I sit on the Parks and Rec Board, and I just had a question. Are you involved in any like sports or activities, recreational?
Just a few clubs at the Lake Havasu High School, but anything outside of school, not right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions from the council? All right. Thank you, Ms. Vedder.
Thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing. I will open it up to the public for any comments. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion?
Yes.
I move to adopt resolution number 18-3269, appointing Lauren Vedder as a student member to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board with a term ending June 30th, 2020.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I believe we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Congratulations, Ms. Vedder, and thank you for volunteering. The next item is 10.3, introduce ordinance number 18-1210, amending Lake Havasu City Code Chapter 2.70, Capital and Equipment Planning, Chapter 8.24, Sale of Certain Public Property, and Title 14, Zoning regarding the Capital Improvements Program. Ms. Olson.
The item before you tonight is really largely just a housekeeping item. Staff has taken a look at some of the names, references to departments, and references in particular to the CIP that we commonly refer to during the budget season as either a capital improvements plan or a capital improvements program or a community investment plan. It has many names. So we're trying to just bring consistency throughout these various sections of the code by giving the proper department names that are referenced, as well as the CIP being officially the capital improvement plan. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do any council members have any questions?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Olson, I just wanted to say that as I went through here, I could see that it was probably important in terms of the results that you were getting back from searches throughout the organization, because when you mention things 3 different ways, not everybody knows how to use wildcards to have broader searches, bring all this information. And it's critical that our people are able to get to that information. But the other side of the question, or the other thing I wanted to say, I guess, is from a computer science standpoint, the fact that we're doing this, that we're going through this, speaks very, very highly for working with the investments we've made for our IT infrastructure, the rollout of our new data systems, and the ability to interact with them accurately. Even simple things like changing plurals to singulars. We have capital improvements program. We're changing that to a singular version of that. But the other thing that's important is the operations department being named the public works department. I couldn't agree with that more. And it's not because operations was necessarily a bad name, but because that's more commonly associated with private corporations. A municipal government, it's more commonly referenced as public works. So I think that's how people would approach it and search it. So I didn't really have any big questions. I just wanted to make those comments and congratulate you for bringing this forward. Well, I guess I will ask the question, what would be the biggest challenge in terms of indexing or index search problems that you've been made aware of, Ms. Olson?
I think just initially the CIP was a big one. People do the searches and they just put in CIP and they might get a variety of things back. When you go to other cities, the CIP is more commonly referred to as capital improvement plan. So if a person types in capital improvement plan at the Lake Havasu City website, they wouldn't necessarily go to our CIP, which is what commonly referred to now as a community investment plan or program. So I think the CIP will bring that consistency so that we can correspond with other entities and do research, and they can do research as far as our records as well.
Thank you. I just want to say that I was thinking in terms of internal facing, but you've made an even more important point, which is external facing data, which of course we'll be able to deliver through our systems as well. And if I'm not mistaken, because we actually have this in our city code, we need to actually change that to have that uniformity as a mechanism so that we can then clean all the data systems, normalize that data, and have a not only internal but public facing system that's going to give the accurate results people are looking for.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from council? Seeing none, I'll open up the public hearing. Does anyone from the public have any comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion?
Yes.
I move to introduce ordinance number 18-1210, amending the Lake Havasu City Code, Chapter 2.70, Capital and Equipment Planning, Chapter 8.24, Sale of Certain Public Property, and Title 14, Zoning regarding the Capital Improvements Program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I believe we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is 10.4, adopt ordinance number 18-1204, amending Lake Havasu City Code Chapter 3.20, fee and service charge revenue, cost comparison, and charging system to update cost recovered. Ms. Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this item was introduced to council at a previous meeting, and so this is the adoption of the fees and service charges for the city of Lake Havasu. As indicated at the first meeting, staff has gone through and looked at all of the services that the city provides and come up with the cost that it is to provide those services. And then based upon the reasonableness and some of the consistency throughout other entities, we have proposed recovery percentages. So there are many fees that we recover at 100%, but there are many others that are very commonly subsidized and have a lower recovery rate, especially in the area of parks and recreation. So this ordinance is to set those recovery rates that then feed into the actual fee schedule itself. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do any members of the council have any questions for Ms. Olson?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Groh?
I'm having fun tonight. Ms. Olson, I really appreciate this ordinance. Again, it ties it into CPI, but I do have a few questions because it's been a little while since I've been on the Bureau of Labor Statistics site to kind of check out the way the different CPI calculations are presented for us, for anybody. We have some new presentations, you know, the chain CPI. And then previously we could pull Lake Havasu City and Kingman as a region for a CPI basket. And you could actually have some different selection options. You could have that with fuel and energy. You could take it without fuel and energy. Things have changed a little bit. So I was wondering if you'd be kind enough to kind of take me through a tour, if you will, of which particular CPI data set you're pegging this with.
What we're bringing you to at this meeting is not tied to the CPI. For those years in which we don't do the intensive study of the fees and charges and the services provided, we apply the CPI. So this year we actually went back, met with all of the departments, went over the entire fee schedule, every single line item, and came up with recommendations to bring to you as far as cost recovery and to update the actual costs. So it wasn't based on CPI this time, but those in-between years, that's certainly what it's based upon. And I'd have to research what we typically do here, but most often it's for the western region and the urban clerical. That's usually how we zero in on that. So, but you're right, there are several options.
Thanks, Ms. Olson. The reason I asked is because there is quite a variance, and I was aware that we probably would use the western region. The urban, you know, in terms of how we're selecting into that determines whether we're going to be in the Phoenix or Las Vegas corridor, and of course that'll make a significant difference in some ways. And so I was curious about that piece. If it wouldn't be too much, could I ask if maybe, you know, when you get a chance, if you could let us know, because I know with the new chained urban CPI, and then choosing different urban centers and the regional selection of the western region. That does provide good data for us. It just kind of looks to me like when you go to the BLS, we have less data that's specific to Lake Havasu and Kingman than we used to have. So it kind of looks like they're moving the business more towards a larger, if you will, survey scope in the CPI. And so I'd like to get my arms around that so I understand exactly which basket we are following. That way I can get a hold of that data too.
Absolutely, we can get that information out to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council? Ms. Wilson, I do have a question just on timing. So going forward, how are we going to address the fees? Is it going to be introduced in the fall for adoption for January 1st of each year, or?
Yes, that's how they typically have done it in the past, and that seems to work well. That way we're setting the fees at early enough in the year that we can use the exact fees for the budget process.
Okay.
And maybe apply just a partial year CPI to those.
Okay. Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments from the council?
Mayor?
No. Yes.
Motion?
I actually need to open the public hearing real fast. This is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address this item. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
Motion now?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move to introduce ordinance 18-1210, amending the Lake Havasu City Code, Chapter 2.70, Capital and Equipment Planning, Chapter 8.24, Sale. Wrong one? Thank you. Oh, all right, thank you. Council Member Lane saves the day. I'm probably wondering, what is this guy reading? I move to adopt ordinance 18-1204, amending the Lake Havasu City Code, Chapter 3.20, and updating costs recovered. That's the right one, yes?
Second.
All right, thank you, David.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Our next item is 10.5, approve the purchase of new carbon monoxide monitoring system for Bridgewater Channel from Lee Bay Supply and use of contingency funds. Chief Davis?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. I am happy to bring you an item, joint item from the Fire, Police, and IT, and very delighted to have the single item that everyone in the audience is here to see this evening. So it's my honor to share this with you. It would help if I start with a little bit of background. For over a decade, we've maintained a carbon monoxide monitoring system in Bridgewater Channel. A few years before that, we discovered that the congregation of boats with the trees and the slope sometimes caused elevated carbon monoxide levels that could have a harmful impact on our visitors. We've been maintaining that system pretty much flawlessly. In fact, I'll give kudos to Jonathan Baskin and his team for keeping that on autopilot for the last decade. We've encountered a few problems in terms of heat and sand and sun and whatnot, but they've been very minor, and so that system has run flawlessly for the last decade. Over the last boating, and I'm sorry, I should point out that is 11 sensors spread out throughout the channel. They are linked electronically. When carbon monoxide levels goes up, that alerts the dispatch. Dispatch will notify the officers down at the channel and the firefighters down at the channel. PD will stop traffic in the channel. They will make sure we don't have boats that are idling and will allow the natural wind to clear those carbon monoxide levels and lower that carbon monoxide level so that it's safe for all those folks that are down there. This last boating season, Jonathan began to encounter pretty much critical failures of the system. The quick solution, because the material and the components were not immediately available, was to begin relocating sensors from the end of the channel towards the center so that we could obviously maintain the concentration where most of the people are. We ended this last boating season with 5 of the 11 sensors out of service. This also happens to be a time when that system, like any other electronics, really is not available in the same state as it was back when we first got it. We apologize for bringing you this on your first big evening, but we wanted to actually make sure we brought you the right recommendation. We identified that there really are about 3 options, although we don't believe the first one really is a legitimate option. We have the system for a reason, and the first option is to eliminate the system. Well, having it in and of itself probably eliminates that as an option. So we're down to either purchasing surplus equipment and creating our own components to put that system back in line for the next boating season, or moving on to the option of upgrading the system to a newer system. We anticipated bringing that to you in the budget process and probably next year, but unfortunately we've reached the point that we have had the critical failure in those components. So after reviewing kind of both of those reasonable options, we realized that we don't know if we can get those components on surplus. We don't know what they would cost, and quite frankly, we don't know how much longevity we could put into the system by using those components. Given the fact that 5 of the 11 failed, it's, I guess, reasonable to assume that some more of those are going to fail over the next boating season. So that leaves us really with the option of, and what the recommendation we're bringing to you tonight is to replace that system. We believe this is probably an example of what we created contingency for, and of course they're asking for contingency to do that. I would point out that also with the boating season really starting prior to July 1, that's the other reason why we're here tonight. In order to get that in place and operational prior to July, we really need to get moving on either of those options, either buying surplus equipment or replacing the component. I did speak with Jill briefly. She had a family emergency, so she had to take off. But we did budget about $500,000 in contingency that's still available. You'll notice that this request is for about $140,000. Now, actually, $10,000 of that is the maintenance agreement that we have every year on the carbon monoxide monitoring system. So it's about $130,000 for the new system, and then the $10,000 to put that system in service, and then the maintenance agreement that goes along with that. So I think I've covered the portion of it that I'm aware of. I have Dan and Jonathan here for all of the background information because I'm just the spokesperson this evening. So if there are any questions, I can answer them. If not, I can certainly get someone that can. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions from the council? All right, Mr. Groh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief,
Yes, sir.
I know this is really exciting. Everybody's been looking forward to this, and I have too. But this is on the public health note, serious note. I'm curious if you can kind of give us a sense of, or take us to school, if you will, and tell us a little bit about what the CO levels have been, what that danger presents to the public, and sort of the alarm profile. Because I recognize, like everybody else does here, when we have the boating season, the channel fills up. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out you could have levels of carbon monoxide that could be very dangerous to human health, and so that's why we do the monitoring. But obviously, we've had issues in the past, and I was wondering if you could kind of give us the story there.
This is identical to the situation in your home where you have an oven or a furnace or things that are burning and creating carbon monoxide. That's why we have a monitor in our home. This is the same version, but outdoors. The impact or the effect on people is exactly the same. I could try to drum you up. I didn't bring you actually statistics on the calls because, quite frankly, the effect of carbon monoxide is that you'll turn red, which is similar to being in the channel all day in the sun. The effect of carbon monoxide is that maybe your faculties will begin to reduce, which sometimes is similar to what happens in the channel when you consume all day. So the fact is that there is a little bit of a blurring of the lines between whether maybe carbon monoxide or something else did impact some things. But nonetheless, when we do treat people down in the channel, that is one of the things that we do watch for. And so I can't give you necessarily a statistical answer to that, but I could say it is very dangerous. Carbon monoxide indoors causes deaths every year nationwide, and we unfortunately were driven to this after some unfortunate circumstances down in the channel and realizing that we had elevated CO levels.
Thank you, Chief. I like the blurring of the lines there because that would be true. Now, we have the good fortune of having a city attorney. My assumption is because we have measured these levels down there that we do provide that service, that we would have a risk management issue if suddenly we decided not to. Safe to say, City Attorney?
Yes, correct. We've had those discussions.
Thank you. And then from the other side, which is the IT side, anything that's 10 years old is in fact way out of date. I mean, you can use flip phones, but not many people do. The problem is when you start dealing with 10-year-old equipment and you try to find legacy equipment, it may or may not work. But then the other problem is if you need to try to keep that running, you're going to have to actually start reinventing some of the circuit boards inside there. And I can assure you that's not an easy nor an inexpensive process. This is kind of a bargain price. So I wanted to thank you for bringing that, Chief. That does make it safer for the boating public and for the people who are walking around down there, even for your pets. And I think it's really important that we do this. So sooner rather than later, because you don't want to leave something like this laying around as an item unattended to.
Are there any other questions or comments from council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions, Chief, and I don't know if you know the answer. Do you know how many times per year we actually have the alarms go off? Just ballpark. I'm not asking for specific numbers.
You're gonna have to stand up, Jonathan.
I knew I'd get you up here.
Yeah. On the
That was my goal.
Yeah. On the IT side, we'll see them go off various. If someone leaves their boat running, they pull up on the beach and they leave it running, you'll get elevated CO levels. But as soon as they turn it off, it'll go down. So I believe the guys, what they do is if it's for a long duration of time, they will then go shut them down. So on a holiday weekend, you'll see them going, we'll see them on the monitors going off, then they'll shut down. Then they may go off again, and then they'll shut down. So if they go on, shut off, we're okay. But dispatch will start alerting them once they go on for more than, say, a minute or two.
So they are going off.
They are going off.
And it is dissipating. So it is working somewhat.
Oh,
but
very
obviously
much so.
not through the entire channel, which is what we actually need.
Yes, and it's also wind conditions, things like that down there, because the channel is in a low area. You will see when there's no wind, we kind of want there to be a breeze blowing to get the carbon out of there. But otherwise, they do constantly go off, especially when jet skis come through. We'll see them go off. It'll elevate, and we do have those set a little higher than the standard as far as alarms go, what your house would be.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments from council?
I'll make one quick comment. The reason that there's a blurring of the lines, and while it was funny, the simple fact is carbon monoxide is 400% greater of a binding property to the heme of the hemoglobin, which means it prevents oxygen from binding to the heme, which is why people get red and can lose their faculties. They become hypoxemic, which is not enough oxygen. This can cause irrational behaviors. This can make the nicest person mean. It's very unpredictable, the consequences, but it can also be life-threatening. So I can't begin to overstate how serious this is. I did raise the issue of risk management. I do believe it is a risk management issue for the city, in so much as if we didn't provide this, we could potentially be liable, and it wouldn't be in keeping with our best interests of public health. So I really like this.
All right. Any other comments? All right. This is a public hearing. We will open it up to the public. Does anyone have any questions or comments for council on this matter? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
Can I try to do a motion, Mr. Mayor, and see if I can read it from the screen and get it right this time?
Yes.
All right, let's give it a shot. I move to approve the purchase of a new carbon monoxide monitoring system for the Bridgewater Channel from Lee Bay Supply with the use of contingency funds in the amount of $141,611 and 54 cents. I hope that's accurate. And authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute a multi-term requirements contract and renew the contract annually.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I believe we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item is 10.6. It's approve land lease agreement with Verizon Wireless. Mr. Frosley.
Thank you, Mayor Sheehy. Mayor and Council, you probably don't remember this, however, I do. And back in 1998, the city entered into a land lease agreement for a very small piece of property located near the Island Treatment Plant. The agreement was with Mojave, or Citizens Mojave Cellular, and was for the construction and operation of a cell tower. The original lease expired this past July. It was automatically renewed to allow us time to finish our negotiations for a new lease. That has been completed. That's the item before you tonight, which, by the way, is not going to cost the city anything. Some of the provisions in the new lease agreement include an initial term of 5 years with an option to renew for an additional 2 5-year terms. We've updated the rent to reflect the current market. Currently, we're collecting about $8,900 per year for that piece of property, which is about $745 per month. The proposed lease is just under $15,000 per year, so that'll be about a $1,236 monthly rent. So significant increase, and you probably noticed we're a little tardy getting this renewed on time before the old one expired. So we've got provisions in the new contract to prorate that payment to make sure we're fully compensated for the entire year based on that new rate. So happy to answer any questions. It's a pretty straightforward agreement.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from City Council?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Grove?
Mr. Frosley, this is one of the great pleasures of government, being able to get income without having to lay anything out like this. This is great money coming in. But you said it's over by the Island Treatment Plant, and I think I know the tower you're talking about. Can you give us a description? It's right over there, sort of between the plant and the soccer field. Like, where is that exactly?
Yeah, I apologize. I should have had a map with me for the package, but if you're coming into the Island Treatment Plant, you take your first left, which is just on the opposite side of the soccer field.
Right.
And it's really in between the clarifier and the aeration basin at the plant and the baseball field and the soccer field.
Oh, you can kind of see it from the field, but sure. Yeah, it's way over there on our own land without interfering.
Yes, it's on the actual Island Treatment Plant site.
Thank you, Mr. Frosley.
You're welcome.
All right, are there any other questions or comments from council? All right, this is a public hearing. Does anyone from the public have any questions or comments for council on this matter? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion?
Yes.
I move to approve the land lease agreement with Verizon Wireless.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from council? Seeing none, I believe we're ready to vote.
Motion carries
Thank
7-0.
Thank you. All right, our next item is 10.7, adopt ordinance number 18-1206, rezoning track 2242, block 4, lot 6, 2440 Anita Avenue from C1 Limited Commercial District to R2 2 Family Residential District. Mr. Schmeling.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First of all, congratulations to yourself as
Thank
well as the new member and returning members. Second, I'm not asking for any money. And third, if my presentations seem a little bit longer tonight, that's by design because we've seen about 12 years worth of history go out the door. Therefore, I feel like I need to give you a little bit more background.
Thank
All
you.
right? So, first item, the property's located in the north end of the community, primarily at the corner of Anita and, at the corner of Anita and Avalon. It is one of those scenarios that you've seen in the past, or most of you have seen in the past, where the original subdivider created these little commercial nodes that are scattered throughout the community. The subject property is shown on the south side of Anita. They're asking to rezone it to R2, which is supported by policies within the general plan. And it's their intent, once rezoned, to subdivide it into 2 lots and put 2 single-family homes on those properties. That concludes this portion of the presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from City Council? Okay, seeing none, I will open up.
May I, Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I
Mr.
thought you
Groh.
said it was going to be longer, Mr. Schmeling.
This is the shortest of the 3.
Okay, thank you. I was a little disappointed. That's all.
All right, this is a public hearing. I will open the public hearing. Does anyone would like to address the council on this matter? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council.
Mayor, motion?
Yes.
I move to adopt ordinance number 18-1206, amending the zoning classification and district boundary of tract 2242, block 4, lot 6, 2440 Anita Avenue from C1 to R2 zoning district.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from the council? Seeing none, I believe we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is 10.8, adopt ordinance number 18-1207, removing tract 2307, block 4, lot 5, 2090 Kiowa Boulevard North from PD 03-004-00005 by rezoning the property from C2 PD General Commercial Planned Development District to C2 General Commercial District. Mr. Schmeling.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This property is on Kiowa Boulevard in the northern portion of the community. It is located just north of the corner of Runabout Drive and Kiowa Boulevard. You can see here the subject parcel is at the very end of the 5 lots, originally zoned C2 PD. That planned development was approved in 2003. And at that time, it was rezoned from multifamily to C2. We were under a different code at that time, and there was some concerns expressed by the adjacent residential owners in this bank of R3 area here behind, directly adjacent to the properties. And so as part of that planned development, there was some conditions that were applied, mainly dealing with a separation wall. There was some grading requirements. There were also requirements regarding the reduction and the elimination of activities in the rear of those buildings to minimize the impact on the adjacent residential users or residential uses. This is a copy of the site plan that was originally approved as part of that plan development. You can see the configuration. They had the lots laid out with the building pads near the rear of the properties. The residential properties that I'm speaking of are to the rear here. They had requirement of a separation wall along here, certain pad elevations, which are don't mean anything today necessarily. But one other point, they had all of the activity, or the majority of the activity, out front along Kiowa Boulevard to reduce the impact. In 2016, the property here on the corner, Lot 1, was rezoned, removed from the PD, essentially rezoned to C2. The lot in question today is Lot 5. Many times the question comes up, why are they removing themselves from the PD? Typically, when someone requests a PD, it's because they're looking for some sort of whether it's a height exception or a parking exception, or there's a concern that the land uses will be negatively impact on adjacent property owners. So a lot of times there's restrictions placed on those. In today's code, there are provisions that apply now that we didn't have before, that protect some of the neighboring properties. We have additional landscaping requirements that will be required in the event that this lot number 5 gets rezoned and then redeveloped, as well as a wall. So some of those things were not in the code before. That's why they were part of the PD. If this gets rezoned and removed from the PD, many of those restrictions are now in the current code, so they'd have to abide by them anyway. That concludes this presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the council? All right, this is a public hearing. Does anyone from the public want to address the council on this matter? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing.
Mayor?
Yes.
Motion?
Yes.
I move to adopt ordinance number 18-1207, amending the zoning classification and district boundary of tract 2307, block 4, lot 5, 2090 Kiowa Boulevard North, from C2 PD to C2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? I believe we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Our next item is 10.9, adopt ordinance number 18-1208, amending the zoning classification and district boundary for APN 107-72-003C 120 Park Avenue from C1 Limited Commercial District to IB Island Body Beach District. Mr. Smelling.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This property has been the subject of several recent actions. You should be more familiar with this piece of property. It's located on Park Avenue near the Aquatic Center. The property is highlighted here in yellow. It's about 3.5 acres. It was part of the MCO plan development, which included the Aquatic Center, this particular piece of property in the subject for the action tonight, as well as all these parcels along Park Avenue. A little bit of history here. This site was originally slated for a 125-unit hotel as part of that PD. Earlier in 2018, this property, as well as all these properties, were removed from that MCO PD, so they no longer have that restriction. They were rezoned to C1. Now the new owner is asking to have this rezoned to the Island Body Beach District. Here's the current zoning in the surrounding area. P1 is the public zoning district, which is the Aquatic Center Park. This is the subject property at C1. We have the adjacent property to the south, already zoned Island Body Beach. You have multifamily across the street, C1 across the street. One of the questions that I heard as part of the hearing at the Planning Commission was the question of the differences between C1 and Island Body Beach. C1 actually has a lot more uses that are permitted. I provided you with a table in your council communication, but also the major difference is there's two, primarily. One, the Island Body Beach District has some setbacks associated with it. You see a 50-foot front yard setback, and that would be from Park Avenue. Side yard setback, which C1 doesn't have any setbacks. And then the building height, of course, was another topic that was discussed at the Planning Commission meeting. Maximum building height of 25 feet in the C1, maximum building height of 40 feet in the Island Body Beach District. Now, along with that height, there's also additional code requirements that provide some additional requirements with regard to the width or the measurement of a building, and then also the requirement of view corridors, minimum of 40 foot wide between buildings, as well as the height of the building goes up. There's a table you see here at the bottom, and the assumption is that in the event that it gets rezoned, that more than likely they'll build to or near the maximum building height of 40 feet. You can see there's additional open space requirements as well as landscaping requirements up to 40%. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, Councilmember Lynn?
would you know what the building height is of the aquatic center?
Yes, the primary building of the aquatic center is 30 feet in height. The area where the slide is located, it's 40 feet, and then there's a little architectural feature that extends above the 40 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of the council?
Quick question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Grow?
Mr. Smelling, do you know when these, when the 1B zoning was done, where they included the view corridors and the height and the different setback requirements?
When the zoning code was adopted or changed?
Yeah, when did they change that to include this?
In 2016, when we adopted the new zoning code, we applied some of the existing code that predated 2016, but we also added some of these requirements, especially with the Island Body Beach District, because that was primarily designated for larger pieces of property that traditionally have resort or resort related uses, and are the majority of which are held by the state trust, primarily on the island and obviously along the shoreline.
Do you have an example you can provide us with what a 40-foot view corridor might look like in our community? Is there one in existence anywhere, Mr. Schmeling?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head, no.
Yeah, and the process for the zoning code, it was about an 18 to 24-month process that had several public hearings and public opportunities to be a part of it when it was gone through. So this is the first time we're seeing it, but it's been vetted by the public multiple times. So, are there any other questions? Yeah,
Yes,
Councilmember
Mr. Mayor.
McCoy.
Did you mention what this is? What is planning to be there? What are they going to do with this?
That would probably be
know?
a better question for the applicant. Actually, it's just a straight rezone, so at this point, they may not have a plan what they're going to do
I was
with it.
just curious if they've been thinking about what they wanted to do there. Are they here tonight?
Yes, they are represented in the audience.
Would they? Could you come up and?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Michael Gordon with Desert Land Group here as the applicant for this project. The landowners and the potential, this piece of property is under contract right now to be purchased based on this rezoning. Both the entity that is looking to purchase and develop this property is here tonight as well. First of all, congratulations to the new mayor and council members and the reappointments tonight. To answer that specific question, first, the intended use is, as Stuart talked about, is pretty specific what Island Body Beach Zoning District allows for, and that's resorts-related type development. The intended use by the applicant is for a condominium and hotel project. with some associated retail uses. So you're going to see, and based on the restrictions that the Island Body Beach zoning district has, you will more than likely see probably 2 buildings split apart, broken apart with setbacks, landscaped, a lot of open space, hotel use, a condominium use, and some retail use that will be there for not only the residents and visitors of the hotel, but obviously for the public that utilizes the park and the public spaces down there along the lake. So that's the intended use that they're proceeding with. They have been working on some concepts for that, and we've been helping them down the path of that as they prepare to hopefully move forward with this project. As Stuart said, it's a rezone from C1 to Island Body Beach that is to facilitate the development of what I just expressed. And obviously there is a height to go from C1 at 25 feet to 40 feet to allow some height to offset the breaking up of the buildings and the offset of the buildings. One thing I want to say about the height is it is consistent with, I heard someone ask the question about the height of the aquatic center. If you look up and down the row of development that exists along the public space there from Body Beach to Rotary Park to the channel, you'll see anything from the aquatic center of up to and over 40 feet, multi-family developments that are around 30 feet in height. You have some commercial development. You have Queens Bay condominiums that are up around 60 feet in height, London Bridge Resort. So it's consistent. This zoning district, I feel, is best fit for this piece of property. It's kind of the last remaining parcel of any size that can facilitate a resort-style development, and it's consistent with what exists down there as kind of that buffer between public space, commercial retail, and then the residential portions of this city. With that, I think that's about it. One thing I did want to point out, I think there was some confusion after the planning and zoning hearing about the location of this project. It was kind of reported in the paper that it was Body Beach. It's not Body Beach that's being developed. It's being requested to rezone to the Island Body Beach zoning district. As you can see from the map that's on the screen, the IB at the bottom of the screen is the actual, what is referred to in the public as Body Beach itself, which is the state land portion of property that is used by the public right now. This is not on that property. I just want to be clear about that. It is on Park Avenue. It is a already graded and developed pad of property that's about 3.5 acres in size. As Stuart mentioned, it was part of a long-standing PD all the way back to the MCO days that really was pretty restrictive on what could be done, and that's why over the last 12 to 18 months you've seen all of these parcels that are now C1 be removed from that PD. And because of that, you're seeing a lot of activity on those parcels. There's 3 other parcels across Park Avenue that have current either zoning actions in place right now at the city or plans and development plans being drafted. So from the dismantling of that original PD, you're now seeing, I think, some activity coming and hopefully some development very soon on all of these parcels down here. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those this evening.
Thank you very much. That
You're
answered.
Are there any other questions of the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? And just for the public, MCO is the original McCulloch property. So when we're using some of those acronyms, that's where it dates all the way back to the incorporation of the city and prior to the city. So, all right, with that, this is a public hearing. Does anyone in the public want to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion?
Yes.
I move to adopt ordinance number 18-1208, amending the zoning classification and district boundary for APN 107-72-003C, 120 Park Avenue from C1 Limited Commercial District to IB Island Body Beach District.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from the council? Seeing none, I believe we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 6-1.
Thank you. The next item is 10.10. It's award bid for the Rotary and London Bridge Beach restroom improvements to TR Or Inc. Mr. Salisbury. If you could just turn on the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me just a moment. Let me get this going. Let's see. All right, this is the London Bridge Beach and Rotary Park restroom improvements, project number FA 1060. It is for the rehabilitation and expansion of 6 existing restrooms and construction of 1 completely new restroom. We did a study back
Excuse me, could you talk more into the microphone?
Excuse me,
People
sorry,
probably
yes.
Won't be able to hear.
We did a study back in 2017 where we assessed the needs of the parks, both London Bridge Beach and Rotary. We found that they were underserved by various amounts, and this will bring them in line with their needs. The restrooms are also in various stages of decline and need some help, more so than maintenance can provide right now. Yeah, this is at London Bridge Beach Park, the southmost unit. You can see the lift station there, the sewer lift station. They made some upgrades and repairs to it. It was so declined they had to do kind of an emergency repair to it. We're also going to do work to the plumbing to help this out. You can also see this is the floor of the building. They've had to score some lines. You kind of see them in the drain, running to the drain there. The building does not drain properly. The floor and fixtures are in decline. This is the sidewalk leading to it. If you notice the group of trees right there kind of at the end before the turn, this is what it looks like down by those trees. That's a pretty steep slope. That's not in current line with ADA standards. So we have to make some improvements there. It's not just to the restrooms. We're also bringing several of the sidewalks and surrounding concrete in compliance. This is one of the shared spaces between police and IT where they function. And you can see it's pretty haphazard with wiring and stuff like that. So we're going to give them a better space. This is the middle restrooms there at London Bridge Beach. This is at Rotary Park by the ball fields. You can see down the vent on the louver on the restroom door. Those all have some damage. People trying to get in there after hours after the doors automatically lock. The roof needs upgrades. Here's the roof of the building next to the skate park. You can see it's starting to rust and decay. This is the restroom inside that's pretty torn up, beat up, needs some help. Here is the state of the urinals there in the men's restroom. This is one of our sewer lift stations, the control panel. You can see it looks kind of old and dated and needs some updating. The sewer lift stations are the 2 of the biggest components of this contract. They represent roughly 26% of the cost of the total improvements. The new building that we're going to build represents about 20% of the cost. So the actual upgrades and maintenance items to the restrooms are roughly 54% of the budget for this project. It'll be a 180-day contract, likely duration between December and June of next year. The bid opening was held on November 7th. The low bidder was TR Orr, Inc., out of Kingman, for $1.6 million. It was $60,760, 3.9% above the approved budget. We are seeking approval for that tonight. I'd like to open it up for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council?
May I, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Groh.
I've heard a lot about the bathrooms down there, but it's important that we're shown and we're dealing with the IT infrastructure down there that, you know, our public safety personnel are going to have access to, and
Yes, sir.
so on and so forth. It's 3.9% over, but, you know, when we go through the estimate process, things change from the time we do an estimate to the time we actually get bids in. And I just wanted to say that I was impressed with the TRR bid because it did come in considerably less. It was almost a 5% savings from the other competitor. It was like $74,850 less. But what I wanted to ask about is the bathrooms by the by the baseball field there. The ladies assure me that that bathroom needs to be bigger and it needs to be better. Are we going to be accomplishing that?
We are building an entirely new set of restrooms right next to it, adjacent to the roundabout, in between the existing restrooms and the playground that exists right there. That grassy area, that's where we're going to be building a whole new set of restrooms, 4 new women's toilets, and same for the men's.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I've heard a lot about that from people, but in particular the ladies. I don't. They did not have the proper service in that area, and it was really, I think, quite unfair for them. And this is very welcome to see.
Mayor?
Lane?
Nope.
With the building of the brand new restrooms, are those old restrooms coming down then?
No, there will be, one of the restrooms will be converted into a family restroom. The other will be turned into a maintenance storage area, and the new ones will just be placed right there alongside it.
And do you have the exact cost or estimate of what the new bathroom alone is?
Yes, I do. Total cost for the new unit is going to be $324,600.
And how many stalls are in each?
4.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor.
Councilmember Koch?
I just want to make a comment. My husband and I frequent both parks on a regular basis. We run in there every weekend, and we also visit many communities when we travel, and we run in their parks. And I can tell you, as someone who takes people to try to sell our community, we always say Rotary Park is the gem of our community, but if you go down there and you use some of our facilities, we are lackluster in that, in those types of facilities. It is time that we bring them up to code and make them as nice of amenities as we want people to believe that we can have and offer here. Our visitors come here for the amenities and to spend their money here, and I think that they deserve to have nice amenities for those types of things when they're down there. So I travel a lot, I see a lot of those things, and we definitely, it's time to put some money back into those facilities.
Any other comments? Councilmember Lane?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple comments. I understand that the restrooms that we have, they can only handle so much traffic, we'll put it that way. And so we have some busy weekends, and on those busy weekends, we actually have to shut the bathrooms down because they cannot handle the volume. And so a big portion of this program, we're not just remodeling a bathroom like we would remodel in our home. We're actually tearing out the entire infrastructure underground, putting in bigger lift stations, bigger pipes, so we can handle the volume of traffic. And the contingency that we've had in the past when we have to shut the bathrooms down is we're bringing in porta potties, which is added expense. And I'd rather drive 5 miles so my wife doesn't have to use a porta potty because those things are pretty disgusting. And so asking our visitors and the public to use porta potties at one of our parks, I just think is ridiculous. If we don't have the facilities available and people need to use the restroom, they're going to use the restroom. Whether they are just using the lake, they go, I'm going to go swimming in the lake. And they just use the lake for whatever they got to do, or the police department gets calls of urinating in public where somebody just picks out a tree or a bush and they use those, and we need to stop that. Another thing I'd like to mention is not only are we having to do the infrastructure, but all of this needs to be ADA compliant. So every stall, every approach, every walkway has to be ADA compliant, and we're making, we do these so that there's vandalism proof as possible. I mean, nothing can be 100% vandalism proof, but we do have vandalism. I believe we just had some vandalism at one of those restrooms just this weekend. So that's something that we have to take into account when we're rebuilding this. So I know the amount seems high, but for what we're doing, it really isn't because of the amount of infrastructure that's being done under there. The only question I have is we are over what the budget is. Do we have the funds available, even though we're over budget?
Mayor Shi, Councilmember Lane, yes, we have funds available. We, in a different project, we're able to move some funds over. We had some dollars earmarked in the CIP for the purchase of the Body Beach area, but we were going to pursue a much less expensive lease agreement for that area for the long term. So those funds will be made available through that project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from council? And just a point of clarification, we talked about visitors a lot down in this area, but the local citizens use Rotary and London Bridge Beach tremendously. They're down there every day using this area. Some of the social media posts were indicating that it was just beaches at Rotary Park. It's both sides of the channel, and it really is a lot of infrastructure underneath that we don't see, and those lift stations are the most important. You don't know they're important until it's not lifting the waste away. So it's really, the number seems high, but it truly is both sides of the channel area and both of our park areas. So. With that, this is a public hearing. Does anyone want to address the City Council on this matter? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion.
Yes.
I move to award the bid for the Rotary and London Bridge Beach restroom improvements to TR Inc.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion between the council? Seeing none, I believe we're ready to vote.
Suspense is so dramatic.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Our next item is 10.11. It's approved cooperative purchase agreement with Don Sanderson Ford, Inc. and authorize the purchase of 2 medium-duty trucks.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The item before you is for the purchase of those 2 medium-duty vehicles, one of which is kind of a companion item to the next item because this vehicle will be what we mount the Vector unit and the valve turning unit on. Just a little bit of background information. We start the process each year looking at all of the vehicles, doing a point system through a vehicle replacement program. That point system indicates the vehicles that qualify for consideration. Then we go through a process of actually analyzing each of those vehicles, whether we need to replace them that year or not. This year, there were actually 15 units approved in the budget. The city manager asked us to, just a month ago, to revisit those issues. We cut that purchase down from 15 to 5. So these are the 2 units and then the companion item that you will see. In addition to that, we'll be purchasing 1 replacement pickup truck, a replacement Bobcat, and a replacement Polaris that you won't see because they're below $50,000. But the original budget for this year was in the amount of about $746,000, and the actual purchases will be less than $281,000, including the ones you're approving tonight. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Clark, could you mention just a little bit about the point system? Is it 40 is the highest?
32 points is where it qualifies. The original program that was developed about 15 years ago started at 28, but several years ago they asked us to raise that threshold, which basically increased how long we keep a vehicle by 2 or 3 years. Points are based on years of service is a point, every 10,000 miles is a point. There's a rating based on the service reliability needs. So for example, a police vehicle has a higher point score because it needs to be out there every day. Something that you can maybe have down for a couple days, it has a lower point system. There's points assigned to reflect the cost of maintenance. As your maintenance cost increases, the points increases, and so that combination is an APWA program. I had about a 15-slide presentation the city manager suggested that I not drop on you tonight. But as a part of the budget process, we'll be happy to visit and explain that part of the research. But really what that does is that just starts and winnows down the list. We currently have about 520 vehicles and pieces of equipment in the fleet. That's down from almost 600 in 2011. And so that 500 pieces of equipment gets reviewed through this point process, gets narrowed down to a manageable amount to review, and then we do that review, which is a unit-by-unit review that the vehicle maintenance supervisor does with the departments. So but again, I'd be happy to have a longer discussion in the future if that's what you're interested in.
No, I think that was a good summary. So thank you. Are there any questions from any of the council members?
Mr.
Councilmember
Mayor?
Lynn?
Yes, I don't know if I should ask it this or wait for the next one. Can you tell us what exactly the valve turning exerciser and hydro excavator vacuum does?
Sure. That's actually a core critical piece of equipment for the water department. There are several thousand valves in our water system around town, and I jokingly say, oh, it's easy to turn a valve. And you'll notice on this, the companion item, there's actually a computer system in that, because the valves that we're talking about turning sometimes have to be turned 80, 90, 100 times. And so not only is it a mechanical process of turning it, but you actually want to computerize the system so that you remember how far did you turn it, did it turn all the way, because that's an indication of whether a valve is going bad or not. And so the valve turning unit that we're suggesting being purchased is actually a newer version of, well, ours is about 25 years old, and it required the truck to be actually backed up over the valve, turn that valve, then move the truck to the next valve, where this unit will actually have a kind of an octopus arm that it's actually able to reach all four of the valves in one setting. That'll increase speed of the operation. It will also increase safety, because you won't necessarily have to be blocking traffic while you're out in the middle of the lane. So the unit being purchased that's going to go on one of the vehicles is both a valve turning unit for major water valves, as well as it includes a Vactor equipment that is able to vacuum out holes, so that instead of having to necessarily dig with a backhoe and then possibly break a utility, when you have a lot of utilities in tight space, you're able to vacuum out. So it's basically a big vacuum cleaner, except it also works with water, so that makes it a shop vac. And then you're able to do that excavation, and it's much safer, much quicker, and much more reasonable to do.
All right, are there any other questions from the council? All right, seeing none, this is a public hearing. Does anyone from the public want to address council on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council.
Mayor?
Councilmember Dolan?
Motion?
Yes.
I move to approve the cooperative purchase agreement with Don Sanderson Ford and authorize the purchase of 2 medium-duty trucks not to exceed $90,412.54.
Second that motion.
We do have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I believe we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Our last public hearing is item 10.12, approve cooperative purchase from Valor Holding Corporation for valve turning and vacuum equipment for new water vehicle. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and just a little bit to add some details to this item. The Vactor unit itself is about $40,000. The valve turning unit's about $15,000, and then the rest of it's labor and some miscellaneous parts to get you to the $70,000 for the piece of equipment that does that valve turning and that vactoring. A lot of times what happens is you're turning the valves and they break or they don't open, and so you're going to have to be doing that maintenance right there. So that's what that Vactor vehicle allows you to do, is either clean out that valve canister or make some repairs. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Lynn?
Does that price include the installation on the truck?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, this is a public hearing. Does anyone from the public want to address the city council on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Koch?
motion?
Yes.
I move to approve the cooperative purchase from Valor Holding Corporation in the amount of $70,999.67 for the Vactor and valve turning unit.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I believe we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, number 11 on our agenda is current events. Are there any council committee reports? No? All right, number 12 is our final call to the public. Does anyone want to address city council at this time? Seeing none, I'll close the call to the public. Number 13 is future meetings. We have our next regular meeting on Tuesday, December 11th, 2018 at 6 p.m. Right here in this room. Our meeting for Tuesday, December 25th on Christmas Day at 6 p.m. has been canceled. Moving on to number 14, any future agenda items? Does any council member have any future agenda items? All right, number 15, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. And we have a motion and a second. We are adjourned.
Good job, buddy.
Yeah.